Okay. So we are, I think, okay to go ahead and get started. So thank you all again for joining us for the July Professional Development webinar for GBTA Ladders. This is a special professional development webinar because we have the pleasure of welcoming the Connect First audience. So anyone who is going to convention for the first time, it might be their first time to Dallas, first time to a GBTA convention. And our goal here today is to provide you with overall information, some tips and some tricks so that you can make the most of your time at GBTA in convention coming next month. So we'd like to first start by thanking our webinar sponsor, Hyatt. Thank you so much for the support. We couldn't put these on without support from partners like yourselves. And I am thrilled to have some of the Hyatt team here with us today. I'd like to welcome Jennifer Webster, who is the Senior Global Director for the Hyatt Salesforce Americas. Jennifer joined Hyatt in 2005, and so she's got a wealth of experience, not only in the industry, but certainly with convention. So I'll turn it over to you, Jennifer. Thanks again for the support, and we're excited to hear what you have to share about convention.
Hi, Lindsay. Thank you so much for the introduction. I am so pleased to be here with all of you today, and even more excited that we're all going to be together in Dallas for GBTA Convention in just a few short weeks. In case you haven't heard, Hyatt is the exclusive sponsor of Connect First for the 2023 convention. We at Hyatt believe in the power of being together and building your network, so we're so proud to be a part of this great multifaceted offering designed to set you up for a successful convention experience. Connect First has a few components, starting with today. Thank you for being here and investing in yourself to hear about some tips and tricks so you're prepared and ready to maximize your time in Dallas. To build on what you hear today, we invite you and your fellow attendees and seasoned leaders to join us for Connect First Open House to kick off convention on Sunday, August 13th from 2 to 3:15 p.m. Whether this is going to be your first convention or your 15th convention, this open house event will provide you with an amazing initial opportunity to network and make some connections that can carry you through the next few days and even years to come. Once the expo floor opens, we encourage you to also visit our Connect First Lounge. If you have some extra time between appointments, need a place to rest your feet, or if you're looking to make new connections, you'll want to swing by, as there will always be a friendly and welcoming face or a comfy chair. As you listen today and prepare for convention over the next few weeks, feel confident that your experience will produce what you put into it. In this crazy world that we live in, I know it's easy to just go through the motions, but just like a gym membership, the results don't come just by showing up. You do have to put the work in. So before I pass it back over to Lindsay and team, I have a few tips and tricks that I'll leave you with. In full transparency, I lost count of the number of GBTAs that are under my belt a while ago, but from experience, my biggest piece of advice is to be game on as soon as you leave for the airport. With over 6,000 people converging on Dallas at the same time as all of us, I've learned that your first opportunity to meet new people that matter starts at the airport. This photo shows my flight to San Diego last year, where I was lucky enough to meet two fellow GBTA attendees sitting with me in my row. One was a customer and the other was another hotelier. I don't even remember how we started talking or how we discovered that we were all going to the same place for the same reasons, but it was great because I had two new friends before I even arrived at convention. It is so important to be open and ready to connect as soon as you leave your home. You just never know who you're going to meet. And to take that a step further in our industry, remember that the connections that you make today tend not to be transactional, but instead they truly usually last a lifetime. That being said, thank you again for allowing me a few minutes today to introduce you to the Connect First opportunities awaiting you as convention approaches. Instead of goodbye, I'll leave you with see you soon. On behalf of Hyatt Hotels, we are looking forward to seeing you in Dallas. If I don't connect with you personally at Connect First Open House, please be sure to stop by the Hyatt booth number 2817, where I'll be spending most of the expo hours with over 60 of our hotel partners. In addition to hotels As part of our purpose to care for people and the planet, we will have key Hyatt corporate leadership from our sustainability team, our diversity, equity, inclusion team, and our well-being team on hand and eager to speak with you about our purpose of care and how we can align our mutual initiatives in these areas. As if all those reasons aren't enough to stop by and visit, I'll leave you with one more tip. You're the first audience to hear that you should bring your own reusable water bottle with you to convention. Hyatt's going to be hosting a sustainable water refill station at our booth where you can bring your own water bottle and refill. Not only will we refill your bottle though, but we'll also give you 500 World of Hyatt bonus points on both Monday and Tuesday just for participating. If you're not a World of Hyatt member, it's completely free to sign up. The benefits are amazing and you can sign up in advance by scanning the QR code on the screen. Look forward to seeing you all in August.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. Even that alone, already great tips, taking it from a seasoned vet and professional. So thank you again to Jennifer and the Hyatt team for the support. So let's get into today's agenda. You'll see here on the screen that we've got this broken down into a few different categories. The first would be to set your intention. No, this is might sound like a yoga class, but it is not, and it is still very valuable to do this. We'll talk about know where to go, the key areas of convention, how you can connect with ladders, and you'll learn a little bit more about ladders for those on this call today who are not yet part of the ladders program. We'll look at the education sessions, going back to basics, looking at a few of those, again, foundational tips and tricks to help you prepare, what to do after GBTA, and then we'll certainly leave some time to go through Q&A so that you all can ask your questions. If you do have any questions throughout today's webinar, please add them to the chat. If we don't address them in real time, we'll definitely be sure to do that towards the end of the call or can follow up with you afterwards. So today's webinar will be not only brought to you by Hyatt, but by myself, Lindsay Straub with the BTN Group, and my co-chairs of the Ladders program, Ali Prejean-Smith with BCD Travel and Grace Morrissey with General Atlantic. So I'll turn it over to Ali now to talk about setting the intention.
Thank you, Lindsay. And thank you again, Jennifer. It was really, really great to hear. And even in this setting, your intention piece, being open is such a crucial part straight away from the beginning. So that was a great reminder fresh off the bat. I am actually at the British Open today. So I have skewered away to my in-laws who live 5 minutes down the road and coming to join you all for this webinar, which I'm very happy to be here. But I think the reason I bring this up is because setting your intention for an event like GBTA is so important because it's such a big event. And you know that you can't do everything as much as you'd like to, just not quite possible. So we want to hear from you. There's a poll that's just popped up. What are you looking to accomplish at convention? Does it fit into these 3 buckets? If it doesn't, pop it in the chat. We'd love to hear if you have a very specific goal in mind. Being here at the Open, I'm actually 6 months pregnant. So I certainly cannot do everything here. I cannot walk around the whole entire golf course. But, you know, as I've kind of gone through my day, I have 3 days where I'm here at the Open. On Tuesday, it was pouring down rain, and my 2 goals were finding seating for myself when it was a bright and sunny day and getting to the shop and buying merchandise. So here I am wearing my new Open top. Today, it's been seeing specific players that I like. I saw Scotty Scheffler and Jordan Spieth this morning because hook 'em. I'm a native Texan here, even though I do live in Liverpool now. And this afternoon, right after we hang up here, I'm headed back out, going to see Rory and Phil for any golf fans out there. So the reason I'm saying all this is the point being, if you're able to set specific goals like this, you're able to walk away from this event, from GBTA, wherever you're going, feeling accomplished and like you've really walked away hitting your goals. So I think most of y'all's goals for GBTA are bound to fall kind of within these 3 categories: meeting clients, education, and networking. And if they don't, again, pop them in the chat. Would love to hear more about those. But between Lindsay, Grace, and myself, we all kind of have different backgrounds. Grace is a buyer, Lindsay is VP of Sales for BTN Group, and I have a marketing background at BCD. So we all kind of approach these events a little bit differently. We're going to share kind of some tips and tricks as to how we set these types of goals for ourselves and how we encourage our teams to also set these goals. And we'd love to hear a little bit more from you. What's resonating with you? Again, keep the chat kind of flowing. We encourage this to be open. So Linz, handing it over to you to kind of talk through meeting clients.
Sure. So you'll hear us say a number of times throughout today's session that GBTA is a marathon, not a sprint. However, it somehow always feels, for the duration of time that I'm there, like a sprint. You can blink your eyes and it will be over. So depending on what your intention is, especially if you're there, like I will be in a sales capacity, you really want to be laser focused before you get to GBTA. That's probably the most pivotal time for a salesperson to really understand who's going to be there, how to set time with them, or how to plan each of your days, whether it's during the expo hours or outside of that, so that you're getting that face time, even if it's just saying hello to those people that you've set out to meet. So in advance, I would say there's two things. Of course, when you're looking at the different supplier partners and the exhibitors, the floor plan and the exhibitor list, as simple and as straightforward as that might sound, is going to be your best friend. So really familiarize yourself with who is where, so that if you're walking the show floor and you're interested in meeting with those different exhibitors, you can really plot and plan accordingly. There's also the GBTA app, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in today's session, but that is something that is already available for you to download. And you should certainly do that, because all of those who are registered to attend GBTA, so long as they've opted in and they've made their profile active, will be in that app. Not saying that everyone is paying attention so much to the app just yet, but you can start to connect with people through the app. You can go to LinkedIn. Some people you may already, of course, know, but still want to be sure that you get some time with them. And those who you don't know, certainly make sure to reach out and connect, doing everything that you can in advance, because once you're there, it really does go by very, very quickly. That being said, GBTA, I've never seen it as a transactional environment. So I would say, and hopefully those who are also in a sales capacity here could agree, it's a lot less about closing a deal. I don't think the expectation internally, at least at my company, is ever that I'm to come home with a number of contracts signed, sealed, delivered. It's really more about the networking time, making sure that I am meeting certain people, that I've made valuable connections, because it's really just, it's, again, might sound obvious, but much more about the long game than it is about any kind of a transactional conversation that you might think should happen on site, when really that typically tends to happen afterwards. So it for a salesperson can very much be a numbers game, and that is ultimately what organizations, I think, like to see, is that you've met with a number of different people and you've connected with them by way of organically running into them or by scheduling those in advance. Appointments are very much important. My last little tip about this, someone once told me, I've been going to GBTA for 10 years now, and someone said to me 10 years ago, the only meeting that you will ever be on time for at GBTA is your first one of the day. Because after that, once you're running to try and get to your next one, you will inevitably, even if it's your first time, you might bump into someone, something might catch your eye. So it's just important to kind of stay focused, know what time it is when you're walking around, because you could have other meetings popping up, so on and so forth. Now for the education bit, I'll turn that over to Grace, and she'll walk you through, as a buyer, what her intention is.
Great, thanks, Linz. So as a buyer, one of my biggest priorities when I head to GBTA is learning what's on the market, what's going on in the industry, and really educating myself about the travel industry. Being in New York City, we do have quite a bit of access to different content in different sessions that are around the city and throughout and on virtual webinars, of course. But GBTA really brings something else to the table when it comes to education. They have several different educational tracks, which we will get into later on in this webinar, so that you're aware of everything that's available to you. But for me, getting into those education sessions and learning more about maybe a new product that's on a market, or a trend that's relevant, or that we anticipate to see coming down the pike in the next year or two. That's really important to me as somebody who's managing a global travel program. Not only that, but you also get the global access to education. So being based in the US and in New York, of course, I have my finger on the pulse with everything going on in the US, but having the global scope of education to bring in the European content and the European perspective, that's always really important as well. So we'll talk a little bit more about education towards the end of the webinar, and we can really expand on how to get the most out of the educational seminars that take place at GBTA Convention. And that being said, I'll hand it over to Ali to talk a little bit more about networking while you're at convention.
So maybe you don't have specific clients or partners yet, but you're using this convention to find them. Or maybe you just want to get to know more people in the industry. I am obviously not from the UK. I currently live here. Moving over, getting in front of new contacts in the industry here was so important. And actually, I am moving back to Texas this fall. So anyone that's a Texas native, I would love to meet you in person at convention, because that is what I'm going to be doing at convention. I'm going to be trying to entrench myself in the local Texas market a little bit more. But when we're thinking through networking, I think kind of 3 key things are important: having a game plan, making things easier for yourself, and also knowing what might be holding you back. And we can probably apply those to all of these goals, but specific to networking, understanding what your goal is going to be. I think that can look very different, even in these buckets that are already, a little bit more specific. For networking, that might be meeting 5 new people a day. It might be quantity, over quality, just quantity in general, not necessarily over quality. Everybody at convention is going to be high quality people, but sheer volume, that might be important to you. It might be meeting very specific targeted people. Maybe there's 3 people, you've combed through the entire list of 5,000 delegates, and there's 3 people that if you meet those 3 people, you've done exactly what you need to do at convention. That could be a very targeted goal for you. Maybe it's inserting yourself in with very specific groups. So you might be like me and want to meet some people from the local town or from your hometown. You might want to connect with people that are passionate about a certain topic. Maybe it's syncing up at the sustainability pavilion, or inserting yourself in to the first timers group Connect First or GBTA ladders. There's so many kind of smaller pockets where you can find like-minded individuals. So understanding your very specific goal is obviously, the first step, and having a game plan towards that goal. I think, again, specific to networking, ways to make this easier for yourself. We've already talked a little bit about the app. We're going to kind of keep plugging it the whole time. It's there to make our lives easier. It's a great opportunity to connect with people virtually ahead of the show. Know that not everybody uses it in the exact same way, but it is the entire attendee list. Everybody that's opted into GDPR, at least, it's all right there in the app for you to use. So comb that through, pre-introduce yourself, doesn't have to be a hard pitch. It doesn't have to be a request for a meeting, but it can just say, hey, I saw your profile. I can see that you're in marketing at so-and-so company, and I'd really like to meet you because we have similar roles, whatever that might be, for you. But reach out and use the app. It's a great resource. And you can even take those connections again offline and bring them to LinkedIn, and you can kind of try to connect with people further there if you're not having as much luck as you'd like in the app. The second thing is to remember that convention is huge. We're going to show you the floor plan and everything a little bit later. But there are pockets of these smaller rooms and groups that make it feel less overwhelming. This might be an education room, right? So if you go into an education room and your primary goal is networking, sit next to somebody that you don't know. Don't sit in the back and get on your phone and look down and start taking notes. Make use of that 5 minutes, 10 minutes that you got to that room early. Start chatting to people. Maybe ask a question during the session. That always is a great way, again, to highlight who you are, highlight what interests you, and then be more open to the room and invite people to kind of come and talk to you. And I think another great way in education sessions to network is to introduce yourself to the panelists afterwards. I mean, they've been sat there, they're probably nervous. They've just kind of gone through their whole session, and I'm sure they would love to hear, from the audience members what resonated with them, and that would very much appreciate an introduction afterwards. Another great way to do this and find those kind of smaller pockets is on the expo floor. Ironically enough, the people are in the booths and they're literally waiting to talk to you. So it's a really great opportunity to walk up to the booths, have those conversations. Do be mindful, obviously. There's a lot of preset appointments, and walking onto a booth, comes with its own set of challenges, especially if you're a supplier going to another supplier. But there's people on every booth that are wanting to engage with you. So take advantage of that. Definitely review the agenda intentionally and kind of plan your days from there, but you'll be able to find those little pockets. It might be the sustainability pavilion on the expo floor. It might be some of the ladders or Connect First meetups. All of these options are available to you. And then finally, I would just encourage you to take a look inward and know what might be holding you back from hitting those goals. Maybe if it's, meeting with clients, maybe you tend to be a more sporadic person, and you really need to kind of get set and pre-book everything. If it's education, maybe, it might be the late nights the night before, so you prioritize getting home at a certain time. But if it's networking, I mean, some of the things that kind of come to mind for me are like a level of embarrassment sometimes walking up and introducing yourself, especially that first initial person that you meet. It feels almost embarrassing in a way. And to that, I say, do not be embarrassed. We are all here to work, and that means network. It's in-person events. This is what they're here for. So remember that everybody has been in your shoes at some form or fashion. Even if they don't appear to be, they might be on stage. And most of the time, those are the nicest people that you'll talk to, because they really appreciate somebody having the courage to kind of come up and introduce themselves. So if you have that inclination to be a little bit embarrassed, start small, work your way up, right? Your first goal of the day should be shaking hands with somebody that sits next to you in an education session and introducing yourself. And then that's it, tick it off your list, and then kind of build up your confidence from there. It kind of goes hand in hand with the embarrassment piece, but it can be nerve-wracking too, to walk into a room where there's a ton of people that all seem like they know each other. So for me, when I'm nervous, having a plan, being prepared, that always helps. There's a ton of ways that you can do this, no matter kind of where those nerves hit. It might be having your elevator pitch ready to go, primed and ready. It could also be, getting some small talk questions to throw together, right? Just having those prepared in case you get stuck in an elevator with somebody and you want to make conversation. You can do some pre-reads on some topics that might be interesting to you. Maybe it might help you come up with a question that you want to ask, in an interesting panel. It could be as simple as taking an extra 30 minutes to yourself to build your confidence up. Maybe that's getting a workout in the morning, a quick little run. Maybe that's putting some extra effort into your appearance that morning. Maybe it's just getting a hearty breakfast, doing like a morning journal, whatever it is that's going to put you in that right mind space to then go out and put yourself out there. What's going to make you feel better. And then finally, last thing to just kind of be mindful of is if you do come across as being closed off, we're all glued to our devices. It's hard to juggle your day job when you're at these kind of in-person events as well. But I would encourage you to put your phone away, make eye contact with people, be really aware of your body language and kind of what vibe you're giving off. And I promise I am not a fan of telling anyone to smile, but it's a good opportunity, a good idea to smile, show your teeth. We're in the South. It definitely doesn't hurt in Texas. And just before we kind of go into some more details about convention itself, these are some generic tips and tricks on the slide, just related, to the overall convention to help you with planning. I think they've been on the screen for a while, so I'm not going to go into it too in detail, but I think you can tell we're all big advocates of planning ahead. And if you plan, even if you plan everything out, as Lindsay said, it's not going to go according exactly according to plan. Put buffer times into your calendar. If you have things out in your calendar, you're better able to kind of see what you can and can't prioritize at the time. And, maybe you have goals that kind of fall across all of those categories and you're able to shift accordingly on site. But if you have everything in one view for yourself, it's a lot easier to do that. The app, we talked about it. We're going to keep talking about it. It's the best place to kind of, again, stay up to date with everything that's going on with convention. When you download it, you'll also get these proactive notifications as to what's kind of coming up. So you're not going to miss things, right? You'll be able to be on time a little bit better because these notifications will literally be going straight to your device. And to that point, if you are trying to make connections within the app, set up your profile. A lot of people don't have pictures yet. They don't have headlines. They don't have kind of anything that makes them stand out. So by just literally adding a picture and maybe a short little tagline into your GBTA profile within the app, you're already ahead of the game. Connect it to LinkedIn too. That's a really easy way just to kind of keep people and keep those connections post-show. When you're building out your plan, your Outlook calendar, I would also encourage you, as you're kind of reaching out and connecting with people through the app, again, don't always go for the hard sell. Coffee breaks are really great. They're great ways to kind of catch up with people, but so are things that are just really casual, like, hey, are you going to this education session? Let's walk there together. Do you want to meet for a protein bar? Just a little quick one before we kind of get this snack in. Do we want to grab a seat next to each other at main stage and just sit together? It doesn't always have to be this really official planned meeting, but sometimes the best kind of conversations come out of that more casual interaction. And then, keep in mind, Texas is hot. The AC is cold, so layer up, plan accordingly in terms of attire. But I'm going to hand it over to Grace, I believe, to talk a little bit more about the actual expo and what you can kind of expect in terms of planning out your calendar start to finish.
Perfect. Thanks, Allie. And last thing I just want to mention about dress code is, and I think it says it here on the screen, but it varies by whoever you are, right? So go back to that intention that you're setting. So if your intention is to meet with clients and have formal meetings, you're probably going to dress a little bit more formally. But for me, I'm going to education sessions. I'm going to have probably some informal meetings, meeting with potential suppliers, meeting with current suppliers. I'm probably going to be a little bit more business casual because that's what I'm planning on accomplishing during my time. So just keep that in mind, what your goals are and have that, determine what your dress code will be. But I've definitely been that person on the expo floor freezing because I didn't have sweaters. So be sure to bring a layer with you if you plan to spend lots of time in the convention center. All right, so know where to go. So of course, downtown Dallas is pretty big, and just figure out when you arrive in the city where everything is. Are you having some informal meetings, perhaps off of the convention center area? Figure out where the restaurants are nearby. Make a restaurant reservation before you get there. That way you have, again, a game plan of what you're looking, where you're going to be, and while you're looking to accomplish your goals while at convention. Figure out where your hotel is. We have lots of hotels around the Dallas area. Whether you're staying at a preferred convention hotel property or whether you're outside of the convention room blocks. Figure out, how you're going to get to the convention center every day. It's going to be really, really hot. So, probably figure out how to be the most expeditious as you navigate from your hotel to the convention center. If you're staying in the room block for convention, there is also a shuttle that can take you that I assume will be air conditioned. So be sure to figure out how to get on the shuttle. The schedule is posted in the app and it's also posted outside of the convention hall. So if you're looking for how to get onto that shuttle, all of those details can be found there as well. And then, of course, if you're staying at the Omni, you're probably connected to the convention center. So that's great news for you. But, figure out, if you've never been to Dallas before, like myself, figure out what's around the area, figure out what resources are available to you, which pharmacies are around in case you need, to pick up something very last minute. And just learning the lay of the land is really good. Pop onto Google Maps if you're unfamiliar with the area, just to figure out where you need to go before you arrive. All righty. Oh, we missed a poll. Let's do that now. So while we're running through, the key areas of convention, let's talk about when everyone plans to arrive. Feel free to respond to that poll. Alrighty, so there's many key areas of GBTA, and we will run through each one individually. So of course, the big headliner item is main stage and the expo floor. But there's also really, other key areas for GBTA. So the sustainability pavilion, the opening reception, the media day, Connect First, which we touched on a little bit earlier. And then there's other events that are going on throughout the time of convention that you should be aware of. So before we jump into that, I'm going to give you 10 more seconds to answer this poll, and then I will share the results. So 5 seconds. All right. So it looks like everybody's going to be arriving kind of throughout the time before convention. So good to see nobody's arriving on Monday, but Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, pretty even splits. So connect with one another before you get to convention and figure out, maybe you can grab a cup of coffee or lunch with somebody before convention officially kicks off if you're one of those Friday or Saturday arrivals. Alrighty. So main stage is going to be one of the biggest components of convention, where everybody gets together in one room. And this is where you're going to see a lot of the big GBTA announcements. Last year, they announced their rebranding. This is where where they announced the new board for the elections that are going on right now. So just a quick reminder, if you haven't voted for the new board, be sure to do that. Voting opened yesterday, so feel free to jump on that and make your voice heard for the board. And then the announcements of whoever has won the election will be announced at main stage. So all of those big announcements will be made there. The other thing that's really important is that this is where lunch is served. So if you're looking to eat, feel free to drop by main stage and grab a bite to eat. They have made great improvements to the food in the last few years. So if you have, if you've had previous experience where you're a little underwhelmed, they have definitely heard our feedback. So the food's definitely improved for lunch during main stage. And then they also bring in these really unique, powerful keynote speakers. So this year there's a lineup of some really great folks who are focusing on all different subjects, which can be found on the GBTA website for convention, and you can kind of see which main stage keynote speaker you're interested in hearing from. Last year they had my personal favorite from last year was a National Geographic photographer that they had come in and share his thoughts around perspective and priorities, which I thought was a really great and unique presentation that he gave that I really enjoyed. So you might be pleasantly surprised if you, aren't really sure what they're going to talk about. They're usually really great and really engaging speakers. So make sure to get there for those as well. And then a pro tip here is sit with somebody new. This seems to be like an echoing sentiment throughout this webinar so far, but sit with somebody new. You never know who you might be sitting next to at main stage. So, you might not know that person next to that open seat, but sit down and you might meet somebody new that you might establish a great friendship or relationship with. And of course, the main stage is open Sunday. That's the opening session. And then Monday and Tuesday during lunch hours. And then there's the closing session on Tuesday evening. So be sure to drop by main stage. And then Allie's going to bring us through Expo.
So Expo can feel very overwhelming. It is a huge floor plan. And I would just like to remind everybody that there are 3 days where you're able to walk through that entire Expo floor. You have 3 whole days to tackle the Expo. So take your time. and absorb all of the messages. It's with my marketing hat on and walking the expo floor, it's just like, you're hit with a million different things. So I know everybody is feeling the same way. Breathe, take it in, tackle the expo piece by piece. And remember that exhibitors want you at their stands. Again, I'll say it again. People, they want to see you. They have all of these kind of activities, right? And look for the booth activities. There might be demos on stand that people are dying to kind of, share. There's games, there's lots of food and beverages, all of it's ordered. They want you to consume it. So go through and make the most out of the expo floor, definitely. And again, be mindful if you are a supplier, like how you're engaging, but truly, when I can speak as somebody that looks after events for VCD, when you do something, you want people to come and interact with it. And it doesn't matter if they're buyers or suppliers really at the end of the day, because a crowd generates a crowd. So you want people to kind of be there and share in the excitement of what's going on in your booth. We have a poll that just kind of started. So talking about the expo floor and scheduling your appointments. How is everybody doing? Have you started scheduling those appointments? We're, oh my gosh, less than a month out. I don't even want to count. Are we 3 weeks out officially? 3 weeks out, give or take. So yes, if you haven't already, definitely time to start filling your appointments. We'll give this just a couple more seconds and then see kind of how everybody's going. Okay, I want to see the results. Interested.
Got a few more trickling in. We've got 15
Perfect.
responses so far. We're ticking up here.
Well, while we're waiting for those to kind of come in, Grace, if you'll just go to the next slide, I'm going to just show quickly what the expo floor actually looks like. And a top tip when you are scheduling your appointments is to try to schedule them relatively close to each other in the grand scheme of the floor, because this tiny little map that you're seeing on screen is a lot bigger in real life, and it takes a minute to walk from one end to the other. Goes back to reminding yourself that you have 3 days to tackle kind of the full scale and scope of this thing. Love it. Okay. Great. So we have a lot of people that are already starting, a few people that are starting soon. And a few of you guys are wingers. Well, you're winging it. I love it. I love it for you. I couldn't do it for myself, but I love it for you. I wish. Just a few things to point out on the expo floor. As we're kind of looking at things, GBTA has done a really good job of dotting features around the expo to really encourage you to get to all of these kind of different aspects. So you'll see there's an innovation pavilion, there's destination pavilions, there's new exhibitors. Across the back, there's like the expo floor theater, so you can actually get education live there. We're going to talk through some of these other lounges that are kind of in the back, the Connect First Lounge, the Globalist Leaders Lounge. There's a lot of great content that you can kind of find there. So just, again, tackle this beast in chunks. And if you'll go to the next slide, one of these little pieces that I wanted to call out is the sustainability pavilion. We've talked a little bit about this. It is a really great resource for those that are interested in, helping further solutions for greener business travel. So it's a really hot topic in our industry, and it's certainly one that I think can be really hard to kind of cut through the noise on. If you're a beginner or you're an expert, this is definitely the place to go if you want to hear about ways to support the planet through business travel and finding those solutions for greener business travel. They'll do education sessions kind of within this area. And again, in each of those different lounges and pavilions that are kind of across the back of the show floor, you'll find speakers and designated times and topics where you're able to actually go to those areas and engage with people on those very specific topics.
Great. Thanks, Allie. So to the opening reception, I'm sure most of us have been in a busy airport or possibly Grand Central Station in New York, or maybe Penn Station, any kind of major metro hub. I compare the opening reception to that because it's very overwhelming. I know we've said that a few times, that there's different bits and pieces of convention that can be overwhelming, but at the opening reception, that's really the first event for convention that everybody is together. So I always use this time to really get that lay of the land. You can see in the image here, it was in a different location in years past where we've been just at a different venue, not on the expo floor, but this year we are on the expo floor. So again, it's open to everyone. It is on that Sunday evening, and you do have just over 2 hours to really get that lay of the land and just take it all in, as hard as it can be, to not feel overwhelmed. We encourage you to try and not feel overwhelmed. One of the notes that we're pointing out for the ladders community and anyone else on this call who might be interested in learning more about ladders, we are meeting at the end of the opening reception at the BCD booth, and we're heading over to our in-person ladders meetup for convention, which will be held over at the Omni. So again, opening session and so many other parts of convention are not required or mandatory, but you really want to be here because it's the first opportunity, again, to see all of these different faces, get a lay of the land of the expo floor, and really try and start to maximize your time there. So for the next one, another great opportunity in advance of when things are really kind of heating up is Media Day. This is another event as part of convention that is open to anyone. So this is taking place earlier in the day on Sunday. So it's Media Day. There's a series of announcements that will be coming out from the various suppliers and exhibitors, and it might give you a really good idea of, if you had not been thinking about a certain company or a certain theme or product or offering, whatever the case may be, you'll get an introduction to that. It's pretty quick. Each supplier or exhibitor typically goes up just for a few minutes to share what it is that they're announcing or that they're launching. And then you'll have the next 2 days or later that evening during the opening reception to potentially think about learning more.
Great, thanks, Lindsay. And then, of course, as we touched on at the beginning of the call, the Connect First event that is being hosted by Hyatt will be happening on Sunday from 2 o'clock to 3:15. So be sure to pop by there if you are, you're new to convention, or perhaps you haven't been in a while. Feel free to stop by the Connect First open house on Sunday at 2. And then, of course, throughout expo floor hours, there is the Connect First Lounge, which Jennifer spoke about earlier. So feel free to drop by that lounge throughout your time on the expo floor. And then you could also, if you're on this call and you're not part of the Ladders community officially yet, feel free to drop by. We will be there to chat with you a little bit more about Ladders on Monday at 3 o'clock. So one of us will be there to answer any questions you might have and connect with you and give you more information about how to get involved with the Ladders community and the Ladders mentoring program. So this is a great opportunity to meet with other folks around convention that you might not know yet. So, really good opportunity to network and meet some new people and to kind of find your footing as you launch into your time at convention. There are a few other things that are noteworthy that are part of the convention. So there might be a few additional registrations that would be required to participate in these. But of course, as always, every single year, they offer the professional development courses that include the advanced principles of business travel management. And then also, if you're looking to get your GLP designation, this always happens at convention every year. So if you're maybe you're not going to participate in it this year, but it's always an opportunity for future years as well. So just be aware that at convention, this is when those distinctions and those assessments are given. So that is when those are taking place this year, and that is for an additional fee. So just make sure that if you're looking to participate in that is another component. If you are a buyer like myself, there are the peer-to-peer buyer-only sessions. So that is going to be on Sunday, August 13th, from 12 o'clock to 1:30. So those are really great opportunities for all the buyers on the line to connect with other folks who have similar priorities to you, who operate in the same vertical. So I would fall into the finance vertical, and I would meet with the peers in my vertical. But of course, there are other buyers there who you can meet with who are in your same industry as well. So those are happening on Sunday. Global entry enrollment interviews, as somebody who lives in New York, and there's always a backup of global entry interviews, you know, at JFK and Newark and Bowling Green. You know, being able to do my global entry interview if I'm due for it at GBTA Convention is a huge benefit. So that's not going to be an open drop-in sort of situation. You do need to register for that and make sure to get that application, your global entry application started before you arrive for your interview. So all of the information for that session can be found on the GBTA website and can also be found here if you click the link in this deck that we will distribute. And then Get Active, which is previously known as the 5K. So if you're returning to convention, that is what this was always known as, but there's the Get Active fitness event on Sunday, bright and early at 7 a.m. So be sure to arrive up to 30 minutes prior, and this is going to take place in the convention center. So arrive up to 30 minutes early to pick up your t-shirt and of course, network a little bit before you start on your morning workout. So again, you can register on the GBTA Convention website if that is something that you would like to participate in.
Hey, Grace, before you move to the next one for ladders, I just want to add to that other slides. We haven't really talked too much about the evening functions and the networking events that take place kind of off the show floor. Again, there are going to be plenty of evening functions that are typically hosted by various supplier companies or exhibitors. There are some that are open. I mean, pretty much if you're a buyer, you've got access to almost all of them, but I point those out because they're not listed anywhere really on the GBTA website. They are typically invitation only. So if you start to hear people talking about those, that's very normal, and it all just kind of depends what the schedule looks like for those different exhibitors, and then, you know, who's able to attend. But if you're not seeing them on I remember the first year I went, I'm like, where are all the parties listed? But they're really not. So just know that that's, you know, as you're going to the different booths, you're typically going to hear about that if they are open events. And then at that booth, you'll be able to, whether it's a bracelet that gets you access, or you can have your name added to a list. So just kind of, you know, if that's of interest to you, definitely keep that in mind when you're going to the various booths, if you've not been made aware of an event prior to arriving in Dallas. I want to add that.
Great, thank you, Lindsay. That's really helpful. All right, we'll hand it over to Allie to talk a little bit more about connecting with ladders.
Perfect. And before we do that, I also just saw a question from Stratton in the chat. Who gives out the best swag? I want to hear from everybody, right, in the chat, because I feel like everybody's going to have a different take on this. There is a trend, definitely a long-term trend going more sustainable here. So you're going to see less gimmicky things that you like pick up. And I think I'm going to give you my personal take on this. It's going to be more about experiences or quality kind of gift items. And those might be a little bit more limited, those quality gift items. Some of my favorites have been like air tags in the past. I think those are really cool. One of my favorite experiences was an oxygen bar. Unfortunately, I won't be partaking in quite as much of the evening events as I have in years past, but due to pregnancy, but those are really great pick me up when you're on the show floor, you know, getting that energy boost after a late night. So love that. Love seeing that. So excited to see what everybody else has to say about that one. And while you guys are typing, I'm really conscious we haven't kind of done an overview of what Ladders is for those that are on the call that are part of the Connect First group. So just a recap to everybody, this call is open to everybody part of Connect First and everybody that's in the GBTA Ladders program. So people that are coming to convention for the first time or who haven't been in a while, but also people that are involved in the GBTA Ladders mentorship program. So it's a team-based mentorship program. It's a really great opportunity to kind of cover all those goals that we mentioned at the beginning in a smaller group, right? You get access to a global network, you're furthering your education around kind of a seasoned topic, and there's a lot of professional development opportunities as well along the way. So it's a really unique team-based mentorship program, and 100% we would be open to talking to anybody about it if you are interested. And here is where you can find us at convention to learn a little bit more about the program. For those that are in ladders, please come, please show your support. We want to see you. It's another great opportunity to meet up, with your global ladders peers that are all going to be kind of together in Dallas. So the meetup, once again, it's going to be on Sunday, which I think is really exciting. It's a great opportunity to meet people at the start of the show versus at the end, and you're able to kind of use this as your jumping off point. Again, if networking is a huge kind of focus for you at the show, you're able to kind of make these connections and then meet friends of friends and kind of expand throughout the whole entire 3 days that you're there. We also have our education session on the show floor, and this is particularly for those that are interested in maybe learning more about ladders. This is a really awesome way to see the program in action. So you'll hear an overview from Lindsay, Grace, and myself about what the program is, but more importantly, you'll hear from our winning team this year, Team Anya or Team Travel Change, about their take on the topic that they worked so hard on all season long. And you'll get to kind of, again, see the program brought to life through the ideas that they've come up with this season. Other things, just kind of things you can look out for if you're part of the ladders community or interested in learning more about ladders. Definitely look to social media. We are all over social media. The group is super, super active, and they use the hashtag #LadderUp. You can also find, more resources on GBTA's podcast. There's a podcast coming out in August where Team Anya is going to be talking about their project again and about the process that they went through. So a little bit more behind the scenes of kind of how the whole season went together. Again, Lindsay, Grace, and myself, we've done a podcast about the program overall and kind of what you can expect, what it looks like. So that's a really cool resource to look to. And for those that are in the Ladders program already, we do have some VIP tables at main stage. If you haven't already kind of put your request in, those spots are filling up very, very quickly. We have a few left. So if you are interested, please submit via the link we kind of shared beforehand to kind of come sit with us at main stage.
Great. Thanks, Allie. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about education sessions at convention, which I promised earlier. So here we go. So there are lots of different sessions at convention, almost an overwhelming amount. So essentially, you have 6 opportunities, 6 different sessions that you can attend based on the time frames. So Monday and Tuesday each have 3 sessions, and they are all blocked in the morning before the main stage sessions. So I would encourage all of you to get up and get into at least 3 education sessions, if not all of them. I know I will be at all 6, participating as a speaker or participating as an attendee. So there's all different types of focus areas that you can block your schedule around. So let's start off with the pro tip that's on the screen. Look at the education session lineup before you get to convention. So this will be part of your preparation work. So, which sessions are you going to prioritize? Which ones do you want to see? Of course, you can be in the convention hall and, grab a buddy and look at whatever is interesting or right in front of you. But if you're looking to be a little bit more strategic, I know this is what I've done. Look at the sessions that are available and plan out your schedule around those. If you are on the supplier side, let's say you work in hotels, your first inclination might be to look at the education sessions on the accommodations track. But maybe look at, the education sessions in payment solutions or in sustainability. And you might find some synergies that you can take back after convention that might not just be, what's going on in your particular vertical. Also, if you are in the Ladders program, And there was a topic that you discovered in the last season, and there's, you want to learn more about data analytics because that was what your project focused on, and that's kind of what you're looking to expand your knowledge on. Look at which education sessions are under that discipline. The other thing, whenever you're looking and prepping your stack of education sessions, is personally the way I like to do it is have a broad mix. So I'm not going to look at just a particular track and attend all of those sessions. I'll be picking something from each different track and popping into different sessions so that way I can get the best perspective. And then when I look back on what I've learned, I can kind of knit it all together and find, how one influences the other and how they kind of dovetail into one another. That's how I've always done it. And I think that that's usually the best way to do it. Quick shout out, as Ali said, our Ladders education session is at 8:30 on Tuesday. So feel free to join us for that. The room has not been determined yet, but that will become available soon and we'll let you all know. Lindsay, I see you come off mute. You want to add anything here?
No,
Nope.
that sounds great. Yeah.
Great. And
Great.
all right, so let's move on to back to basics.
So we realize that we're a bit, we're about to hit time here. So a lot of what is on the screen right now, we've said. Something else that has just come to mind, if a lot of the events that are taking place, the meal functions are all happening within convention. If you do, however, want to schedule maybe an earlier breakfast or a dinner, this was a rookie mistake that I had made probably 2 years in a row. You have to make reservations. We're a huge convention and there's not unlimited places to eat. There's also not a ton in proximity of the convention center. So I am not encouraging anyone to not go to main stage. You should certainly do that. But if in the evening, again, dinners or drinks or a breakfast, be sure just to call ahead and make sure that you do have those reservations because it really will fill up. Instead of doing all of your meetings at a particular location or at a particular booth, I'm going to shout out Festive Road right now. I remember a few years ago, Paul Tilstone with Festive Road had said to me, why don't we just walk around the convention floor and do a kind of walk around and walk and talk? And we had our meeting that way, and it was it just got us kind of moving. It deviated from that traditional just stay in one place. And I found it to be, just that much more engaging. The last thing that we would say, and this goes kind of into the next and one of the final slides, is after GBTA. My recommendation to you all is to write everything down, not in huge detail, but anytime I meet someone, I'm writing it down just in a notes pad. If they tell me something about themselves, or maybe even if it's just where they're from or something about a vacation coming up, I do typically jot it down because there's information overload coming at you from so many different directions. And to be able to reference that back and then follow up afterwards, people typically appreciate that and are impressed when you can remember some of the things that they've told you. So be sure to utilize your LinkedIn channel, add everybody on LinkedIn. You'll want to be able to report back, as we've said many times throughout, to your stakeholders internally, not only what you learned, but who you met, how you did it, and all of that. So long as it is logged, it's kind of like for me, if I don't write it down, it typically did not happen. So go ahead and just be sure that you're utilizing all of the different tools and resources that are available to you. And over to Ali to kind of wrap us up with some social media tips.
Glenn's awesome points on LinkedIn. And I think it's, again, to echo that, use it as a platform to stand out. Post where you'll be, post who you want to see, post takeaways from sessions, pictures, all those kind of get a lot of engaging content. Live event post, get a ton of engagement on LinkedIn. So, it's a really great opportunity for you to build up your virtual platform as well as your in-person platform at Summit. And we've added some hashtags here for you, #LadderUp, #GBTA 2023, to make sure that you're connecting with kind of your attendees on site. And I will leave you with this. Use your social media in advance so you can be really present in the moment. It's so easy to get distracted at these things. remember while you're there, remember your goals, going back to the very beginning of the call, which feels like a long time ago now, but going back to that, remember while you're there, set your intention and be present and soak in those moments. We're okay to stay on for a couple more minutes if you guys do have questions. I'm sorry that the timing ran out. There's so much to talk about when it comes to GBTA. If you have questions and you want to maybe pop us over an email, you can email us at ladders@gbta.org. And we're happy to kind of get in touch with you guys or point you in the right direction. So thank you all. We really appreciate it. And a big, huge thank you to Hyatt for sponsoring this webinar, Connect First, and for the Ladders program. So big thank you again. And we're very much looking forward to seeing you guys in Dallas. We'll hang on a little bit longer if you have any questions, if they pop up in chat.
Yeah. And yeah, Allie, Grace, just if you could stay on.
Thanks, everyone. See you in Dallas. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mark.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Josh, we will be sharing the recording and the PowerPoint. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
sorry.
Lindsay, you want to stop the recording?
I do. How do I do?